Hey, so just because your muscle is lengthened does not mean it's flexible, and just because it's tight does not mean it's strong. This is Waking Up Your Sleepy Glutes Part 4, Muscle Balancing. I talked about one of the main reasons that people have sleepy glutes is not so much that they're weak or sleepy, they're just inhibited, meaning that they're not working properly or engaging when they should be. This is oftentimes a result of muscle imbalances, things like over and under compensation. Think of our muscle a little bit like a rubber band. We want it to be pliable and supple, yet strong. And often when we talk about having lengthened muscles or shortened muscles, we're talking about relative to one another or relative to where they should be for proper mechanics, not necessarily lengthened meaning it's flexible or shortened meaning it's strong. There's a difference between muscle that's strong versus muscle that is overcompensating. And if you're hypermobile, you know what I mean. You know what it's like to have muscles that are tight in areas where they're overcompensating for your ligaments that are weak. But that doesn't mean that those muscles are inherently strong, which also means that there are going to be muscles that are lengthened from the position that they should be, that have had to make room for those other muscles that have been tightened. Those lengthened muscles doesn't mean that they're flexible. They're not going to go back to where they should go. They're just lengthened. Think of like an old dried out rubber band. That's not flexible. This is where we have to look at the difference when we have proper mechanics versus imbalances. When we think about the difference between activation or engagement versus compensation, we want to think about what the muscle should be doing versus what it's trying to make up for or do in someone else's place. Please remember that we are just as likely to experience soreness from muscles that are too weak as we are from muscles that are too tight. So with that being said, the body needs balance and it will seek it out in any way it can possibly get it. As we adjust one thing, others will respond because the body is constantly compensating. As we begin to work on mechanics and imbalances, their things are going to fluctuate. This is why I don't care who you are, you need stability, mobility, and flexibility to truly address muscle imbalances and to actually feel the difference. This is the entire basis of muscle balancing, which is the antithesis to muscle imbalances. Guess what? It's not just stability, mobility, and flexibility. And so usually when someone tells me, X, Y, or Z is not helping or it's making it worse, it's because they're either skipping some of these pieces or they don't know about these other pieces and are unknowingly skipping those as well. Another really important thing for muscle balancing is fuel. I'm talking hydration and nutrition. Proper hydration meaning not overhydrating, making sure we're getting enough electrolytes, and nutrition meaning complex carbohydrates, protein, omegas, and micronutrients like vitamin C and magnesium. All of these things are incredibly important for repair and rebuilding, and if we're not doing these things, we're not going to really feel a difference, and we're also not going to maximize the work that we're putting in other areas. To be clear, I'm not saying this to shame anyone. I'm just saying drink a little extra water, make sure that you're just getting enough of these nutrients so that you're giving your muscle what it needs, giving your body and your brain energy. And the last piece of this pie is tissue repair and recovery. I'm not stretching. I'm talking myofascial release, trigger point release, TENS massager, acupuncture, massage therapist, foam rollers, whatever you have access to. These are separate and distinct pieces of repair and recovery that are also necessary. The thing is, we all need all of the pieces of the pie. The difference is our slices are going to be different sizes, they're going to be different flavors, we're going to have different things inside of those pieces. We won't get there the same way, but we all need all of these pieces. For example, if you're not hypermobile, you're completely able-bodied, you're still going to need to foam roll. That's not an unusual thing. Our muscle needs that release as well. Another example, if you're hypermobile, you probably know that you have hypermobility in some areas, and maybe you have other areas that are hypomobile because of this over and under compensation. So being hypermobile doesn't necessarily mean we don't need to do mobility work, just in a different way. If we don't start by first addressing these imbalances and building proper stability, if we start with aesthetic goals, we are going to just continue this pain imbalance cycle. I promise you, I was conceited and I learned this the hard way. I thought I knew better than people who knew better before I was a personal trainer myself, and I pushed it and I wasn't worried about any of this. I was like, oh, strength training is where it's at. Thought I didn't need to stretch. I thought I could just move straight into load training without doing any fundamental stability, and guess what? I paid for it. I hurt myself badly. Nearly 5 years later, I'm still dealing with the injury, and all I want is for other people to avoid that at any cost. Last, I just want to touch on a couple of other things that can also impact imbalances and improper movement patterns. Use my hypermobile body as an example, and to be clear, I'm just going to focus on my knees right here. So the kinetic chain, again, it's complex. I'm just talking about the knees and how it can impact certain things. This is me at probably, 3 or 4 years old, and you can see even at that age I wasn't bending properly, meaning I was overextending my knees, putting myself in an unsafe position. Also not using my glutes the way I should be. My body very quickly learned that it needed to keep my knees bent most of the time to keep itself fairly safe, because when I keep them straight, I go into these overextended locked knee positions. Another thing that my body has learned to do is not to take big steps. I take very small steps. I have an overall reduced range of motion. See, as I'm standing still, those knees are locked, and then I go reduced range of motion, baby steps. A lot of this is because my body has learned over time that if I extend my leg all the way back, it may be dangerous for me. When the body is scared to literally move, it's going to reduce its range of motion, which means even though I may have some muscles that are lengthened or shortened, overall my muscles are weak. The most common things that impacts the kinetic chain and creates imbalances and improper movement patterns are repetitive movements. And here's a great example. This is me at, 16, 18 years old. I do everything with my left side. I put my bags on the left side, hold the phone, and I have for years. Is it a coincidence that my left side of my neck is what I injured badly? No, probably not. Because our body will go for the weakness. That's what happens with over and under compensation. Also, real quick, no idea who the dog is. Yes, that's a random wrist brace on me. Look at how cockeyed my body is sitting, and that's just welcome to if you're hypermobile and you know it, I think it's pretty clear there are a lot of reasons that we can have muscle imbalances, and most of us need to work on some degree of muscle balancing. The biggest thing is we just need to make sure we're not missing pieces of the pie. Alright, in the next video we'll finish this up. I will show you how to put those glutes to use, give you some inclusive movement, and a little bit of advice on how to know where to start.